Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. Hope everyone's been having a good summer. Today, we're going to be talking brand messaging with Ashlee Sang. Ashlee is a brand messaging strategist and consultant. Oh, let me just check the audio here. 1 second. Oh, okay. Let me go back. So brand messaging establishes the recognizable way your brand shows up in the world. In Ashlee's talk today, she's going to explore why establishing your brand values is so important, how your messaging can be more consistent, and more. Ashlee, thanks for joining, and take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad to be here today. I love talking about brand messaging. I know this is a content marketing meetup, so you all know a lot about the power of marketing, the power of content, and brand messaging is really that step back that informs everything that you create. And then I know the intros were really useful, so thank you. I know some of you work for companies, some of you are solopreneurs, and sort of everything in between. So brand messaging absolutely applies to you and your personal brand. And then, of course, large scale companies. So do take whatever examples I use and apply it to your use cases for sure. So today we are talking about the basics, the fundamentals of brand messaging so that you can have that beyond basic brand, because what you're doing is special, right? Like that's why you show up to work every day. That's why you put in all of the effort, and that is what you are working to build, is something that's not just basic, but something that's special. And so brand messaging is really what showcases that special quality. So first and foremost, let's just get acquainted. I know a few of you are outside the Bay Area. I was born in California, Northern California, but I am actually in central Illinois, dead center, middle America. I sort of accidentally am based here. I have a background in international development and nonprofit communications. I was in Senegal in West Africa for 4 years, which is where I really cut my teeth on donor communications, media relations, internal communications, brand consistency, all the things. And then I have been freelancing for probably 5 or 6 years and been running my business for over 3 years. Full time. I am a new-ish mama. She is 8 years, or no, not 8 years, 8 months old. And I am sort of in the thick of that. And I work specifically with conscious and caring business owners, people who want to use their business as a vehicle for good. They want business to feel good. They want to do good. And brand messaging is the way that they are able to connect with the people that they want to reach, so that they're really able to have not only the impact that they want, but also the thriving business that they are after. Yeah, so that's sort of the gist of where I'm coming from as I approach this topic. And we already sort of went over what we're going to be chatting through, but basically, we're going through the building blocks. So everything I do in my business, all of my client work is through a lens of brand values. And those are as a means to stand up for something in order to stand out. And we'll go through sort of how and why that happens. And then the other element that I always use as a lens is your audience, keeping your audience at the center of every single decision you make in your business. So that is the framework that we will be working toward today. And let's dive in. So first and foremost, what is brand messaging? Sounds like most people sort of at least have a vague idea of what it means. But for me, brand messaging is that recognizable way that you show up in the world. And this is beyond the beautiful visuals. So when we think of branding, most of us think of logo, typeset, colors, all of the visuals, right? Photography style. But your brand messaging is what actually informs that. Your brand messaging is what you take to your graphic designer, your web designer, your ops person, whoever it is. Your brand messaging is what establishes how you want to move through the world. How your brand shows up in the world. And so these are elements like your mission statement, your brand voice, your brand values, the audience you're aiming to serve, your core messages. Those are the elements that inform a really clear, consistent brand message. And it is that consistency and clarity that bodes confidence, because you want to show up confidently, especially if you are a solopreneur service provider, if you're working on your personal brand, if you want your brand, even if you're not founder forward, as many startups are not, if you still want your brand to be able to show up confidently and clearly so that you instantly know, if you're on the other side of it, what that brand stands for. So we'll be breaking down all of these elements. Basically, your brand messaging positions you. So we've probably heard about a positioning statement or your position in the market. Essentially, what positioning is and what brand value, what brand messaging answers is the question, why would someone choose to buy your product or service? Why would they work with you? Why would they become a brand advocate on your behalf instead of a competitor's? Or instead of not buying anything at all, right? Like that is also an option. So your brand messaging, your positioning, the way that you show the value that you provide is what makes someone buy. It is what makes them continue to buy with you. And it's what makes them spread the word about you. It's really about how you're making people feel on the other end of that copy, that ad, that content, that customer experience, whatever it is, however they're interacting with your brand messaging is what establishes that feeling, right? So we're going to go through the basics first and foremost. In my framework, there are really 4 elements of what makes a brand. Every brand has these, whether you're intentional with them or not. I also wanted to mention that branding, when we think of branding is simply perception, right? Like Nike is still Nike without their swoosh. It's how you make them, it's how they make you feel, right? Like you would still feel that you're in a Nike store or watching a Nike ad if they didn't even have their logo, if they removed the swoosh entirely, if they didn't even mention Nike, like you would know it's a Nike ad. And so the same is true for any company, like any brand has that potential, and brand messaging is what informs that. And these basics are what we're trying to convey through brand messaging. So first and foremost is your audience. This is at the center of everything. You can actually view it as sort of like a telescope or a microscope. So one would be sort of audience up to vision, and the other would be vision out to audience. It depends on what you want to start with. For a lot of startups, maybe you actually are starting with the vision and then expanding from there to the people you're reaching. But for often a lot of service providers, it's, all right, who do I want to serve? And then how do I want that to manifest? So let's get back to the basics. So audience, this is who you are showing up for. It's a little bit obvious, but we will break down in just a bit exactly what goes into determining who your ideal audience is. Your brand values are how you're showing up. This is really, really essential. This is how you move through the world. This is how you make decisions. This is really the crux of what your brand is and does. Your mission is why you are showing up. This is why you stick it out even when it gets hard. This is why you keep going even when you get negative feedback, or you get in a room with someone and they just don't get it, right? Your why is what keeps you moving forward. And that vision is what you're working toward. This is what you're showing up to create. And all of these go hand in hand and inform each other. And this is really, if you're able to clearly identify these elements, your brand messaging strategy will be on point. So when I work with clients, I do brand messaging strategy specifically in a VIP day, a 1-day intensive. We hit the ground running, and these are the 6 elements that are in the guide that we co-create. It's everything that's in their head and heart that is distilled through me, reflected back to them, and is the bridge to the people that they're aiming to reach. So these are the 6 elements that I find to be most essential for a successful, clear, consistent brand messaging strategy. And we're going to be going through all 6 of these elements. And so I start with a brand statement. And this is a client example of a before. So this has a lot of industry jargon. I personally don't know what the paradigm in the jewelry industry is. It also was a little bit clunky. There are like a couple words missing. The work she was doing was amazing, but the way she was conveying it was not clear. So I'm not going to read this out loud because it's chunky, but I wanted to show this as a before to then show the after. So we broke it down into 2 elements so that the part in bold is really her elevator pitch. Like if she only has 10 seconds before someone's eyes glaze over, she's able to say this. So she's able to say Manoja, which is her brand name, is a fine jewelry brand that creates impact through sustainable materials, ethical employment, and giving back to girls' education in Indonesia. So you instantly know what she cares about, what her audience cares about, what her audience is looking for, why the work she does matters, what it is that she's creating in the world. Instantly, you know that from this first sentence. And then if she has more time, if someone is, showing interest or asked in the first place, then she can go on to say, that even bigger picture vision of we are changing the jewelry industry away from fast fashion toward responsible handmade pieces that use recycled metals and diamonds to protect not only our health, but also the environment. So it's not very often that you associate jewelry with health, but that's super important to her and her brand. And so she has more copy on her website about that. She could talk to you for hours about it, sort of in person, if that's the case. She has tons of content opportunities to be able to talk about how the metal on our skin affects, the health inside our bodies, etc. Right? So this is an example of how to really refine what it is that you want to be known for. That overarching brand statement of what do you do? Who do you do it for? Why is that important? So I wanted to also show that once you have this pretty lofty brand statement, like it's not every day that you meet someone in the supermarket or wherever you are and you like go through your entire brand statement, right? So there are many ways that you can repurpose and sort of tease out and smush together other elements to a brand statement. So here's another client of mine. She is a bookkeeper. And she wanted to refine her. So this was the brand statement that we created together via our intensive. And then she wanted to update her IG bio, obviously. She wants people to know when they land on Instagram, who she is, what she does, who's it for. And so she really wanted to focus on the fact that she is a modern small business bookkeeping agency because she didn't want to give the impression, she wanted to stand out from other sort of maybe Main Street accountants that are just some old guy with a bunch of filing cabinets behind him, something like that, right? That's not her vibe. She wanted to be fun and modern and really leverage tools. She specifically talks about navigating your numbers in order to embrace your role as CEO, because she knows that the people she works with, often women, are confused by she wants to paint a picture through her bookkeeping, which is really special, right? Like it's not every day that you think of storytelling and accounting, but that is how she views the power of understanding your numbers. So she wants to really be that guide to navigate those numbers with you. And the whole point is to embrace that role as a CEO and make those bold, informed decisions. right? So it's about confidence. It's about finding balance in your business and in your life. It's about having the information to back up all the decisions you make. So all of that in a tiny, tiny, tiny Instagram bio, based on a brand statement that we did together. I wanted to mention, feel free to pop in the chat any questions, any insight. If you have a brand statement or a mission statement or an audience or whatever element we're going through that you want to share, definitely feel free to like make this as interactive as you'd like. And then of course I can answer questions at the end as well. So that's the brand statement. Now we are moving on to that mission statement. So really that why. So the brand statement encompasses a bunch of different elements. It can often include your audience. It can often include some element of your values. It can include what it is that you do. It can include elements of your mission, your why, or your vision, your what. But the mission statement is really that why statement. And so here I have 3 different examples. One is from B Lab, which is part of B Corp. And they specifically say that they are serving a global community of people who are using businesses as a force of good, or for good. So this is really human-centric. It's about the people who care, and it's about leveraging business. And that is the whole point of B Corp. Earth Hero is a really cool sustainable marketplace. And they really focus on conscious consumers. And so their tagline is choices make changes. It really puts the power in the hands of consumers. You know, like where you spend your dollars is what you are supporting, is the change that you are going to see in the world. And so their mission is to make sustainable shopping so easy, everyone does it. Caveat, everyone is not an audience, just so we're all clear. I think most of us know that as marketers, but in this case, it's appropriate because their audience isn't everyone. Their audience is the people who already care, the people who care about sustainability, and their vision is that it becomes so easy that everyone does it. And so their why is working toward that vision of sustainability being the norm. Black and Green is a really cool marketplace that sells specifically products that are both Black owned and or created and sustainable or non-toxic. So they have a really fun mission statement that shows off their voice and their personality, which is, I like my products how I like my people, non-toxic. So you get a little bit of sass, you get a little bit of personality. But then they also have a more formal statement that's about promoting beautiful, sustainable, and high quality products from Black artisans and entrepreneurs. So that entrepreneur element is really important because it really showcases the idea of sort of money bolstering change again, and money in the hands of creators who are, historically underrepresented. You can really feel their values come through in this statement. So on to values. Most of us know what a mission statement is, so those were just some examples to get the ideas flowing. When it comes to your values, it is really essential for you to reflect on the intersection between what you care about as a founder, what you care about as a company, what you care about as a brand, and what your audience cares about. It is that sweet spot in the middle where all the magic happens. That is where all of the resonant content occurs. That is where all of the choices that are perfectly aligned happen. So really think about the company culture that you're creating and the people that you are serving. You can rewatch the recording or screenshot or something for some brainstorming around these. I also have a bunch of resources around brand values. I have a whole half-day intensive dedicated to establishing your brand values because it is so essential, both establishing, defining, and then applying it, because those values are really, again, they're the how. This is how you run your business, is your brand values. So you can get the ball rolling with questions like, what causes do you support? How do I want to make people feel? What do I want to be known for? Why did we even start this business to begin with? Where are we going? How have we shifted since it started, right? Those are going to start to tease out some of your brand values. A few notes. I like to aim for 3 to 5 core values. Anything less than that is not quite robust enough to guide your decisions. Anything more than that spreads yourself a little bit too thin. It makes it so that you're a little bit too scattered. And so ideally, if you feel like, oh, but I really care about these 7 things, can you encompass a few of those ideas under one umbrella value that can really be the guiding force from there? And then what I find really valuable about brand values is that it creates a framework for you without boxing you in. So often your brand values can become your content pillars. They can become sort of that middle point of a mind map as you think about offers, as you think about partnerships, as you think about anything in your content creation or your website copy. It can be that lens, it can be that focal point. And it really allows the sky to be the limit, but for it to be anchored in something really, really concrete. So again, I have a bunch of resources specifically around making decisions on values aligned marketing and operations, because a lot of us can sort of imagine where the marketing choices could occur, in the types of videos we create or in our email signature or something like that. We can reflect our values, but it's also in our operations where this really, really is special. What conferences to attend, how to price your offers, what offers are even most appropriate, that sort of thing. And then one other caveat when it comes to values, they are not, no value is inherently good or bad. So take the idea of inclusion, for example. For a group like this, inclusion might be a wonderful thing. We might want a bunch of different voices, different perspectives, different industries, different regional representations. We might want a bunch of different voices, and that actually makes the group richer. It makes it more robust, it makes it more useful. But if you are working with a really unique subset of a population, and maybe it's trauma informed, or maybe it's about a piece of their identity, where if you have other people in the group where they haven't had that same lived experience, the group is going to be diluted. The results are going to be diluted. It's not going to be a safe space for the people who have gone through that. So in that case, being in an exclusive community might be perfect. That might be what your business needs to deliver the best results. So inclusion and exclusion are neither good or bad. It's how they manifest in your business and how you define those elements that is most important. So once you have established your values, which is a huge undertaking, it's not just like a 5-minute exercise, but once you have established your values, it's all about aligning those values in your business. So you want to figure out, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to stick out in people's minds when they think of your brand? Do they think of you as being super transparent? Do they think of you as being a source of levity in their day? Do they think of you as being the most trustworthy brand they know? Whatever it is that's important to you, that is what you want to be known for. Also, when you align your values, it draws your audience closer with your mission, through your mission, via your mission. Like it really links the people you want to serve and the reason your business exists. That values bridge is super, super important. And then when you align your values, you are pushing your business closer to your impact goals. Your business exists for a reason, right? Like there is something that your business offers, a transformation that occurs through the work that you do or the products that you sell that matters in the world. That is the impact that you're having. That is the legacy that you're leaving. So when you align with your values, you're pushing your business that much closer to those goals, to that transformation. So the next element is brand voice. So here I literally just looked up these two companies that came to mind, and their Google snippets show off their brand voice pretty clearly. One is Reformation. And so they say that being naked is the #1 most sustainable option. Reformation is #2. It's not every clothing brand that talks about being naked, right? Like that's a pretty bold voice, especially for a clothing brand, right? Like most clothing brands are talking about clothes, not being naked, right? So it really shows off their personality. They're sort of like cool girl, chic, but care about the environment sort of vibe, right? That is their voice. Versus Osmia is a natural soap and skincare company. And they say that they have a full line of doctor formulated natural skincare, better ingredients, better results, better for the planet. So you can really feel some weight to this. You can feel some authority behind this. Like they want to be a source of authority in your personal hygiene routine. And then they actually really balance this with, they're extremely founder forward. So the doctor formulated, that is the founder. She is the face of their content. They have really great content. But she will also get on Instagram, for example, and sniff her bars of soap and like use all of these nature terms and sort of like ethereal language around how it makes her feel and what it smells like. So their voice is sort of balanced between this really authoritative, facts-based, this is good for you soap but it also feels really good. It's a really luxury experience. Here's a brand voice example from one of my clients. She is a service provider. So unlike the product-based ones we just saw, and she knew that she wanted to feel and sound like a college dorm resident advisor. So we instantly have an idea of what that sounds like, right? Based on our own experiences, if you went to college. She wants to be approachable. She wants to be empathetic. She wants to be that mentor figure through her business. And that said, she's not afraid to be a little bit contrarian. She's not afraid to disrupt the status quo if it feels right to her and if she feels it will help her audience. And so anytime she creates copy or content, anytime she gets on a sales call, anything, she's able to reflect back on her brand messaging guide, look at this brand voice section and determine, all right, does this hit the mark? Am I approachable, but I'm not actually serving my clients? Or am I being empathetic enough, etc. Right? So your brand messaging guide allows you to have a lens that's sort of this like third party neutral experience outside your own head and heart that you live in every day. Or if you have a giant team or a small team, or if you have contractors that are constantly in or out of the fold, right? They are able to reflect on this brand voice and leverage it. So that if you bring in a copywriter and they are, I don't know, super authoritarian, or they are really like cut and dry and inject zero humor and zero empathy, then you can give them this guide and say, hey, take a look at the brand voice section. Please adapt accordingly, that sort of thing. I see we have a chat, so let me just see. Oh, thanks, Dennis. All right, so that is brand voice in a nutshell. Next is target audience. I'm sure most of you have thought a lot about your target audience. This is so essential. This is like literally the lifeblood of your business is who you serve. And so having an audience persona to represent that one person, that if you could get that person through the door and serve them, you mission accomplished, right? Or if you could get that one person through the door and they brought in 100 people just like them, or 1,000 people just like them, or 100,000 people just like them, your business would be flourishing, right? You would be operating at full capacity because you're serving exactly who you're aiming to serve. And so the audience persona is one specific person. Give them a name, give them a face, and they represent the entire pool of people who would be the perfect fit for you and your business. I like to include both demographics and psychographics. Demographics are, as a recap for anyone who doesn't know, who they are on the page, right? The boxes they check, where they live, how old they are, their political affiliation, their gender or sexuality, whatever it is, right? That it's who they are on paper. And then their psychographics are what I almost always find to be more important. This is what they care about. These are their values. This is what makes them buy. This is their fears. This is their hopes. This is their objections, right? To why they may or may not buy with you or with anyone. So really take the time to get inside your audience's head. I do have a guided template that really frames questions around this and then gives you a framework to be able to fill in the blanks. So it's just ashleesang.com/persona for anyone interested. But I wanted to mention that you might need multiple personas. I highly recommend you start with a core, ideal, central persona, avatar, whatever you want to call it. Because your website and your IG bio and sort of your elevator pitch, that sort of thing, does need to have at least some universality to it. And so that core audience should be who you're speaking to in those cases. But it might make perfect sense for you to have multiple audiences. Maybe you have a high ticket and a low ticket offer. Maybe you have a done with you and a done for you offer. Maybe you have a premium product line and a Walmart product line, whatever it is. You will likely need different personas for those different offers, or for just like different stage in business, or just maybe you have a different campaign, whatever it is. So having multiple personas does allow you to tailor accordingly. And then no matter how many personas you have, the entire goal is to think as your persona and not as yourself. Because we live in our hearts and minds and bodies every single day. It's really hard to step outside ourselves, step outside our teams, step outside our company jargon. And so when we have this audience persona to lean on, we are able to make decisions based on them rather than our own personal biases. So that is our target audience. Next element in a brand messaging strategy is core messages. This is your marketing speak. These are the sort of repeatable things that you always say on sales calls, or your taglines that you always make sure are included at, the end of every blog post, or whatever it is. These are the core messages that consistently talk about who you are as a brand. I generally include 3 different buckets. One is about the founder. So especially if you're a solopreneur, service provider, founder forward brand, even if your founder is not super founder forward, often it's still relevant why the company got started. Like that origin story is still probably relevant in a lot of cases. The other bucket is about the brand. So overarchingly, who are you as a brand? Who do you serve? What do you do? What's the vision that you are working toward? And then third, of course, about the offerings. So really how to demonstrate the value of them, how to showcase the transformation that you are making happen in lives, why it's important, why they need it, what objections you can address, etc. So when you have values forward messaging in those core messages and in your entire brand messaging strategy, you are able to do so many things, primarily these 4 things. One is that you are creating a company culture. Even if you are solo, you still have a company culture. There is still a way that you show up in the world. There's still a way that you interact with clients, with partners, with vendors. You are still creating and perpetuating a company culture. For those of you in larger organizations, this becomes even more essential because you have different perspectives, right? You have different voices. And if you want any sort of consistency in the employee experience, in the user experience, in the customer experience, in the way you talk about what it is you do, and why you do it, leading with your values is so, so helpful. Secondly, it builds loyalty. Most of the time, we are making purchases and staying loyal to brands based on some sort of emotional pull, right? Otherwise, we'll just go with whatever's cheapest. And for some people, that might be what they're after, and maybe affordability is one of your values, and that's that, right? But in general, we're loyal with the brands whose values we resonate with. We want them to make us feel what we want to feel. We want them to represent what we want to represent. So whether that is a give back element, whether that is how the product is created or sourced, whether that is how the service provider shows up so transparently or so vulnerably, whatever your values are, that is what's going to build loyalty with your customers. And that's what's going to make them spread the word, right? So hopefully we all have amazing products and services, right? But that's not enough to stand out. What really is going to retain people and what's going to make them spread the word is by being known for your values, standing up for them, and therefore standing out. The third element that values forward messaging really supports is that it signals to the right people that they're in the right place. It also, conversely, signals to the wrong people that this is not the place for them. We absolutely want to be attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people, because ideally, those right people will bring in more people just like them. And ideally, when we are repelling the wrong people, they will also not be bringing in more of the wrong fit people. So like, how many times have you landed on a website or been served an ad or whatever it is, and you're like, did they read my diary? Have they been listening to my phone conversations? Like, how are they reading my mind right now? That is what you want, without doing any of the creepy tech stuff or anything that is potentially invasive. You want to be leading with your values in order to make your people feel that they are in the right place. And then fourth, sort of encompasses everything that we just talked about, but it sets you apart. Your values are what make you special. The fact that you have an app, or the fact that you have a community, or that you do whatever service you offer, there are other people just like you in the world, right? Other companies that are offering the same or very similar. And so what makes you special is the fact that you believe in this, and this is for this group of people, and this is how you do it. And so your values are really the personification of that idea. So you have your brand messaging strategy, hopefully, 40 minutes in and wham, bam, we know exactly what we want to do in the world, how we want to show up. Next step is creating that impactful copy and content, because you need to get the word out, right? This is your marketing. And so whether it's your evergreen copy on boilerplates, on your website, on podcast pitches, whatever it is, or whether it is continual content churn, you want to ask yourself, how do I want people to feel? And what do I want people to do? Those are the two most essential elements that anything you create should include. And the way you do this, the way you answer that question, the way you sort of know if that feeling and that to do is aligned, is you allow your mission statement, you allow those values, you allow that audience persona to influence every single aspect of what it is you're creating. So I have some examples. So I don't know what it is about the toilet industry, like the sustainable toilet industry, but they nail their brand personality and voice. Like every single toilet brand I can think of just has this amazing, like, humorous voice to them. So Who Gives a Crap, I'm a huge fan of them. They have a blog called Talking Crap, Double Entendre. They talk about their feel-good products. So obviously you feel good because it is a social enterprise, but also feel good because it's toilet paper. They talk about being plastic free. They talk about their profits, etc. Right? So on their blog, what I love, like this is the prime example of content really reflecting your audience and your values. So keep in mind, toilet paper brand. They talk about International Women's Day. They talk about B Corp. They talk about solar. They talk about fun date nights. That has absolutely nothing to do with toilet paper. And yet it is super aligned with their brand because it has everything to do with what their audience cares about and what their brand values are as a company, and that intersection of what their audience's values are and their brand values are. So of course they have some blog posts about sanitation. They have some blog posts about toilet paper commitment issues, right? They of course talk about their products, and I'm sure there are calls to action in these blog posts that specifically say, hey, buy our toilet paper. But I just love this example of something that seems so out of left field, but is actually so tied to their brand because they have really strong brand messaging. They know how they want to show up in the world, and this is how they stand out. I'm just checking the chat, really. So true. Haha. Yes. I don't know what it is about like Hello Tushy or all the brands that are like toilet paper and toilet related. They just really nail it. Patagonia, gold star of like social enterprise, right? Second tab on their menu right after activism, or right after shop, is activism. And fourth tab right after sports is stories. So that shows how 50% of their menu is non-product related. It's about like the content that they're creating. And so like front and center, they have this huge banner of a fisherman's son story. I can only imagine the amount of money that went into producing this video, this story. And yet it had to have been, the ROI had to have been there because they keep doing it, right? They know that their customers are going to buy from them because of their amazing storytelling, because of their activism. So they know that their customers are coming to them not just to buy some outdoorsy shirt, but also to see the impact of this beautiful environment that we share, right? Then we have a brand like Clean Canteen. So here they really lean into their affiliations, their certifications, the things that they know their consumers are looking for as sort of like a stamp of approval. So here we see on their own products, of course, that they are 1% for the Planet member. They are B Corp, they are carbon neutral. Big sticker saying family and employee owned. They know that their consumers care about this. They know that their consumers, when they see these labels, are going to be willing to buy a $25 water bottle when they could have gone to Walmart to buy a $4 case of 30 plastic water bottles, right? So this is really an example of their brand values shining through via affiliations, via their operational choices. Yeah, so let's wrap it all up. Let's piece it all together. As you build your brand, as you make hiring decisions, as you make pricing decisions, decisions about your offers, as you market, as you create content and copy, all the things, you want to ask yourself, how do my mission and values relate? Are they shining through? Can someone view whatever it is you're creating, whether that's, again, an offer, a partnership, attending a conference, whatever it is, can someone see that choice and feel my mission and values coming through? Secondly, you want to ask yourself, does this serve my audience? So if you have an opportunity to go to VidCon and you don't make videos, you have no intention of making videos, your audience does not like videos, they prefer audio, or they prefer long form blogs, or whatever it is, do not waste your time and money and resources going to VidCon. But if, for example, you ask yourself the third question, how will this grow my audience? So it may not serve your existing audience. Maybe you have them you have tabs on them, you really know how to serve them, and you want to grow. And so you have this opportunity to go to VidCon and you think, you know what? I have this huge pool of people who love, love, love watching YouTube, and we are just not there. I need to go to VidCon to meet other creators. Maybe I'll meet influencers who can create content on my behalf. Maybe I'll go to workshops where I can learn how to create long form videos or short form videos or repurpose videos or whatever it is. And that will serve this audience that I'm trying to reach. Okay, then it's a great decision. So just keep in mind, anytime you are creating, anytime you're making a decision, think about your mission, your values, your audience, and of course, that big picture vision that you are working toward. So if you want to dabble in any of this on your own, I do have a totally free download. It is called the Stand Up to Stand Out Kit. This really gets the juices flowing. This allows you space and some questions to brainstorm around your ideal audience, around your vision, around those values, around your big picture why. Why are you running this business? Why are you part of this company? Why are you getting on sales calls and representing the brand that you have chosen to be part of, right? And then my favorite part of this is the consistency checklist. So you can bring this to your team. You can do this on your own business. Again, you can apply this to your personal brand as well. But the consistency checklist really allows you to look at very specific parts of your business, like partnerships, like your website, like your email signature, and see what you're doing well. Yes, okay, my values are really well reflected here. Awesome, check it off, gold star for you. Or, oh yeah, actually, my Instagram content is so all over the place. You could visit my Instagram and not have a single idea of what I stand for. So the consistency checklist really allows you to have that gut check moment with yourself or with your team. So, that is all I have to share with you today. I would love to field any questions, any aha moments. Oh, I see, Craig, you say, for message development, what do you think about online versus in-person focus groups, webinars, etc.? Any great examples? Okay. Do you mean conducting focus groups and webinars in person versus online? Or do you mean like, can you just specify what you mean specifically?
Well, it used to be that we did focus groups in person. Now we can do them online, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are doing that. And also webinar is another good way to develop messages. But anyway, there's different angles for doing that.
Yes. Okay. So I think it depends on your brand. If you are an online, like I am an online business owner. Almost all my clients are not local to me. They are not in Bloomington, Illinois, most of them. And so for me, it would not make sense to do a focus group of Bloomington, Illinois residents to get information about my online business. They're not my audience, right? I would be doing an online focus group with online business owners who are conscious and caring and want to grow their business also online most of the time. A lot of times they are service providers with a small team or they're solopreneurs. So that's who I would get in my focus group. But if you are really clear on your audience and you know that they're hyper local, whether they're local to you or whether, so I think you were the one that said, I'm from the Bay Area, but I'm actually in Minnesota. So if you are serving people in Minnesota, do your focus group in Minnesota. If you're serving people in the Bay Area, like exclusively or specifically, make the trip to the Bay Area, do the focus group, and then, head back to Minnesota to do all the work that you're doing behind the scenes. So yeah, I don't think in-person or online matters necessarily as you're developing your message. I think you make that choice based on your capacity, of course, but then also the audience that you're aiming to serve. Hopefully that answers your question.
What about webinars?
What about them? What
Have
about?
You had any experience with them for doing message development?
I don't know what you mean for message development specifically with webinar, like webinars, hosting webinars as a lead magnet, or?
Oh, well, okay. There's various ways that you can develop a message, but one of them is just to, have a group with a client and agency group and make it up. Another is to have some kind of data or input from people who are potential users. And that could be through focus groups, could be through webinars. where you get people where you can define who the people are for webinar attendees and narrow it down that way. And you can do it geographically or topically as well. There are also some services like, I think SurveyMonkey has a thing, I forget the name of it, where you can basically do a survey today for people that are in a particular area, if it's a narrow enough definition. But I'm just wondering how you've seen the whole set of these kind of tools in terms of message development.
Okay, yeah. So when I think of webinars, I think of something like this, it's like sort of educational. And so, yes, I could, for example, if I were working on my own business and my own brand messaging, I could take questions from the audience and use that for future content. I could use that to get voice of customer. Maybe multiple people in the group specifically mention confusion. And so I'll know that's a pain point for my audience, assuming that this is my ideal audience that I'm aiming to reach. Sort of, I know this is getting a little bit meta since we're like in a webinar talking about webinars, but so that's how I view webinars. Hopefully we're using the same word for the same thing. But in terms of general voice of customer research or surveys or anything like that, yes, surveys are a very powerful tool, whether it's online, whether you're, snail mailing it, whether it is simply at checkout, if you have an app, or if you have, a physical brick and mortar store, that customer insight is really, really important. And you can do it in so many ways. It can be super casual. You can do it in a newsletter. You can literally just have one question every single week. And, at the end of 52 weeks, that is a 52 question survey that you sent to your entire audience without it being a 52 question survey, right? You can do little polls on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever social platform you're on. You can speak obviously with existing clients, past clients, prospective clients on sales calls. You can have questionnaires or surveys, either formally or again, informally. And that can really, really inform your messaging, especially if you are wanting to get that voice of customer, wanting to get the specific words that they use to talk about their specific problems and the hopes and dreams that they have. Or if you're just kind of overarchingly wanting to get, hey, would this offer even be interesting to you? Do you even want this tier? How would this price feel to you? That sort of thing. So in terms of messaging development and surveys, yes, they absolutely go hand in hand. And it is whatever is easiest for your team to execute, most aligned with how your audience likes to be asked questions. And then just a note about surveys, often you need to incentivize. So whether that is paying them, whether that's entering to, win a membership or win a one-on-one call or whatever it is, people are busy. And so if you just send them a survey, the likelihood of them sharing is slim-ish.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we are out of time.
Oh.
So thanks, Ashlee, for a great talk. And what else? Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks for the comments, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good
Great.
day.
Thank